you drop us off at Attercliffe?
Drop me down.
Safe.
Well, in fact, I'll head down that way anyway.
Yeah.
Welcome to another Reyt Good Road trip. The series seems to be going down well. What's your thoughts on this, Paul Tuffs?
It's good. I've been quite entertained by some of your passengers.
When it first started, everybody's like, "Yeah, James Corden rip-off." It is a bit, but you know, we're not singing and dancing, which is not nice. Yeah, green light. We better go. We better go. We got talking. But yeah, it seems to have gone down really well. I'm pleased with the reception that it's getting, and thanks to you, Paul Tuffs, for joining me down for another episode.
Nah, no worries, mate. No worries.
Nice one. So today's little show, I wanted to talk about the progression of a band. You're very experienced with working with new bands, experienced bands, aren't you?
Yeah, I do a bit of all sorts, really.
Yeah.
As long as you know they're highly motivated and they care about what they're doing. I work with all bands. If they're lazy and can't be asked to help themselves, then you know there's not a lot you can do, really.
I had a band send me a song for my podcast earlier. Yeah. And they sent me 2 songs and said, just pick whatever song you want. I'm like, fair enough. But they didn't even name the song on the tracks that they sent me. I'm just like, what?
Yeah, it's them little things like that. It just screams amateur. Yeah. You know, the presentation, and I don't know. I think a lot of bands, they get that excited when they we've done demo recording, or you know, and it might be crap. Yeah. But because they've done it. Yeah. They think it's the best thing in the world ever, and that everyone's going to love it. But obviously, that quality control. Yeah, exactly. What I try and bring to whatever I work with, I try and instill that into people, that you know, you're going up against, you know, millions of kids in bands around the country. People walking in the middle of the road, yeah, nice one. Bloody students, yeah. That's it. So for people that might not be aware of what you do, Paul, just talk us through what you do and what don't I do? Do you know what I mean? Well,
exactly.
I mean, I don't tend to categorise myself as being, I don't know, a live sound tech or a studio engineer or a producer. I try and look at things as a whole and do a little bit of everything, because there's many facets to sort of these musical projects that people are trying to get off the ground, and you've got to take a holistic approach, because it's not just the recordings, you know, it's or the live performance or your online interaction with people. It's a combination of them and other things as well, and you know, people's personalities and the way they behave, and you know, as well, it's getting back to that quality control issue. It's you know, basically if you've got something that's not up to scratch, don't be afraid to bin it. You know what I mean, or keep it under wraps until you've got something that's of a decent quality. And keep developing. You know, a lot of people, you know, in sort of big bands or on labels and things, they'll do like draft after draft of songs, and they'll condense it down into a finely honed product. You know, whereas a lot of young bands think, fucking hell, I've written a song, let's get it out there. And it's
I did that, and when I listen back to the old recordings of my band, we did just spend 120 quid in a studio and bang out 3 songs, and then we were happy with that, and then it were out, and it doesn't stand the test of time, because the recordings shit, basically. Yeah, well, it's a lot of normal people that are not sort of, you know, technically minded in a musical sense. They're not daft when it comes to a crap recording. You know, there's you go to a club, you listen to the radio. There's a lot of very highly produced music out there, and even if you don't know the technical terms of what's not right and that, you can tell. You can spot a poorly produced or a poorly finished product a mile off. You know, you don't have to be some sort of studio tech geek to know, to smell a rat, sort of thing. Well, you can produce things really cheap as well. So let's start from the beginning a little bit. I want to go through a bit of a career of a musician. So you start off, maybe do a couple of recordings in your own little studio type thing, do a few little gigs. For those people just starting out, what kind of advice would you have for the new starters, maybe watching this and thinking, yeah, what do I do? You know, it's a big world. What do I do?
Write, and you know, listen back in the critical sense. I mean, a lot of when I sort of do pre-production with bands, it's basically it's almost it's teaching them to have a quality control of their own products and their own output.
Yeah.
So if bands can do this themselves and sort of hone it and think critically, just because they've sort of done something themselves, it doesn't mean to say it's amazing because they think it is.
Yeah.
And I think they need to look at it almost as a third person would.
Yeah.
And not be afraid to criticise other members of the band and see that as a positive creative process. You know, and it's going to end up, you're going to end up with a better outcome at the end of it.
Yeah.
So I think write, develop, get things right in the rehearsal room before you present it to the public, because you get one chance at launching a product or launching a band, or you know, as soon as a project's out there, you do have people's interests, and people like yourself, people in the local media, people in, you know, booking agents, venues, and you know, I always take on board a new band that present me with something. Do you know what I mean? I'll always have a listen if someone sends me something through. If it's good from day one, you think, fucking hell, these guys or these girls or, you know, whoever's involved with that, they've got something going on there, and it's exciting and you want to be a part of it. If it's crap, it kind of sullies the name and the reputation of the project from day one. Yeah. So I would say, don't put anything out too early.
Yeah. Work on it,
and as well.
How long that kind of time? You know, like a good year at it. Do you think?
Yeah, there's a young band called, I think, Henderson's. I think they're called. I don't know if you've heard of them.
Yeah, they supported Conga.
Kong. Yeah, I did sound from Rocking Chair last week, and that was their first show, and you know, excellent. You know, they did it the right way. They were said they'd spent 6 months rehearsing, you know, getting things right, and you know, to me they're a very promising band from day one. Yeah. You know, I'd work with them again, and you know, I'd keep my eye on them for the future. Yeah. But I think one of the lads is the brothers in Liberty Ship.
Oh yeah.
So obviously, if your older brother's in a pretty decent band like that, you're not going to want to be crap at your first gig. You know, that sort of sibling rivalry. I think they were quite sort of smart in the way that they did that.
So a band just starting off, and then they kind of, in my view of things, they start looking to book gigs, so they contact people like me that do smaller venues and pubby type, free entry type gigs.
Yeah, well, I think, I don't know, I'm always trying to instill into a band to put value on the product, and if they don't put value on what they produce, no one else is going to. So I wouldn't recommend perhaps getting into that free entry gig kind of, you know, bands tend to get trapped in that sometimes, and if they get a reputation for playing a free entry gig week in, week out, how's anyone ever going to book them?
So is it playing too many of them?
Yeah, I think so. I think probably early days it's quite good for bands to get that experience, and it's good, don't get me wrong, there's some good little venues in Sheffield that do free entry shows, and you know, a lot of my pals are involved in them, do you know what I mean? So I'm not sort of slagging them or anything, but I think looking at it from the band's point of view, you know, taking it seriously, wanting to have a career out of it, I think really that they want to be sort of doing ticketed events, but running them themselves and getting the lion's share, not doing one of these crappy deals where the venue pay you £1 a ticket and you're selling £6 tickets or some exactly. And I mean, I think that's a bit shady, and you know, if any of them are watching, we've got our eyes on you, do you know what I mean? We're competing against you and we're giving them a better deal, do you know what I mean? In
basically,
smaller independent venues,
if you're working for a promoter and they're charging £5-6 quid on a ticket and only paying you £1-2 quid,
there's better deals out there for
there is,
bands, and just open your eyes. And sometimes even if it's you know, a famous venue or a named venue, or you know, it really, you're subsidising their existence, you know, with that money. And I think particularly if you're going to be selling more than 50-60 tickets for your show, or over 100 tickets, do your own shows. You know, I think there's probably a place for the bigger venues, but just be a bit careful that you're not getting roped into doing one of these daft deals where
Reyt advice, tough to,
you know, I think it's a bit underhand, really, and I think, you know,
so beware of that.
Yeah, beware of that. But also, I'm not totally slagging these promoters and venues off, because bands agree to these deals. You know, they're not trying to con them or anything. No. They're quite open about what the deal is. But I think there are better deals available, and you're perhaps better selling out a smaller venue, 100 cap, rather than getting 100 people in a, you know, 500 cap venue, or you know, somewhere like that just because you think it looks good.
Yeah.
And oh yeah, I've played there.
So just to recap on that little bit then, so don't do too many gigs within a short period of time.
No.
Stay away from, if it doesn't feel right, it's not right, if you're only getting a small percentage of the tickets.
Don't believe the bollocks people will tell you.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of these promoters or venues, they'll be like, oh yeah, well if you do this, we can get you this, and we'll have booking agents down, you know, and most of it's a load of shit.
Yeah.
If you're good enough, booking agents will hear about you.
Yeah.
You know, people ask me, music industry people ask me what's going on in Sheffield.
Yeah.
If the band's good enough, I'll mention the names. You know, and people that have to sell their event on the fact that they know someone, or there might be someone down there, or some Billy Big Bollocks with loads of money is going to come down and give them a sack full of cash to start the band. It's not going to happen. No. You know, I think people just need to be a little bit more aware of that and a bit more shrewd in what they take on.